So the first day, Zach and I walked up on the stage, and we met Emily and Nick, and we started talking to them, and Emily told me her story. When she was just 7 years old, she was put into sex trafficking, and for 3 years she was raped and forced to do drugs. And so her whole life she was, forced into these things that she just terrible situations. And when she got into high school, she met Nick, and he came from a rough past too. And finally, they just said they couldn't take it anymore, and they decided to run away. And so for 4 months, they had been homeless, and they had just gotten to Savannah a week before we had. And so I just been talking to her and hanging out with, her and Nick all week, and some other people we met in the park. And I was telling Emily, this is my third time I've been on the mission trip, and normally I hang out with little kids, and this year I expected to go into the park and have a little Bible buddy like I normally do, and I ended up hanging out with homeless people, and that was really unexpected to me. And it was strange because I thought I'd be ministering to all these people, and Emily, she had nothing. She told me that she didn't care to have anything because it made her a better person. She said having less to her made her more in touch with herself, and it made her who she was, she said. And the thing that got me this week was, I guess, the compassion that all these, they call themselves travelers, that all these travelers had. And I guess that's what I'd been missing. And so me and Kathy Fowler decided to get a book bag together for Emily, and we filled it with all the stuff that we thought she might need. And they had a cell phone, her and Nick, and so I texted her, and I was like, hey, we have some stuff for you, and I hope to see you tomorrow. And we got to the park, and she wasn't there, and I was devastated. And I walked up to Kevin crying because, she wasn't there. And I thought, God sent me here, and I was supposed to minister to this girl. She wasn't here. And so, everyone else says God works in mysterious ways. And that day I got a Bible buddy, Caitlin. And I only was there with her for 2 hours, but she accepted Christ. And I texted Emily again, I said, I missed you today. And I hope you come to the performance tomorrow. And she said, I missed you too, but I have wonderful news. We found a place to live, and Nick possibly has a job, but I will be at the performance tomorrow, and I'll witness it for the world. And so, it just made me so excited that, she really did care about us, and that she was excited that we were there. And the next day when we got to the park, we had all of our stuff to hand out. And when she saw the stuff that we had, she was just so excited that, she had a new pair of shoes, but she didn't want to keep it all for herself. She was like, I have a place to live now. I want to give back. So we walked around the park and, handed out some of the stuff to all the other homeless people. And it was just a joy to see her. Someone who didn't have anything at the beginning of the week, and at the end of the week, she had a home. And it was just a great transformation to see in her life. And in the bag, I gave her a Bible, and I wrote a letter to her. And last night, she told me, she messaged me on Facebook and said, I got the letter you wrote, and thank you so much. And I almost cried again. And it just meant a lot to me because it meant she must have opened her Bible and read something, or at least acknowledged that, there was a Bible in her bag. And it just meant the world to me that, that she would sit there and spend time with me in the week and, listen to what I had to say about God, and that she really did care. And so that's what happened to me this week.
Good morning. Before this whole thing started, Kevin wanted me to be a leader, and honestly, I was was kind of nervous, and I was trying to think of every excuse I could not to do it. And I was praying about it, and God really talked to me and pretty much told me, man up, and be a leader. So I did it, and I trusted Him, and Sold Out it's been an awesome experience. When we got down there, I got a Bible buddy the first night, and he didn't come back the second day, but over the course of the entire trip, I was able to lead 4 people to Christ, which was an awesome experience because I've never led anybody to Christ, and it was just an amazing experience. And I want to thank our entire church just for being so generous and so giving, because without y'all, we wouldn't be able to go on trips like this. So thank you.
Well, good morning. This past week was really a life-changing experience for myself, and as you can see, for a lot of these students. Parents, I just can't tell you just how proud you should be of these kids, though. The way they allowed themselves to be used of God this past week, and the things they did, the situations they put themselves in, it was just incredible. And they were willing to do it, glad to do it. And these guys worked. I mean, they worked hard. Kevin's talked about how that these guys have been preparing since January. They've been staying after church, working, 2-3 hours every week, learning their skits, learning all the stuff that they were going to be doing, their songs, and, preparing their hearts, getting ready to share the gospel of Christ. And I tell you, last week was a tough week. As Kevin said, plans changed. They had to be, very flexible. It was a lot of work, and I do mean work. We walked door to door, canvassing, telling people about what we were going to be doing, getting ready to share the gospel with them. We were split up across 3 different locations, a lot of coordination. They loaded and unloaded, carried gear. They were asked to do a lot of things, to take things from one place to another. They were given Bible buddies, and a lot of these guys, they were riding these kids on their back, and at the end of the day, they were totally exhausted. But, they were just so glad to do it. Like Kevin said, they fed the homeless. They went to nursing homes. They visited with elderly people every night. They were doing Bible study. When we got back, we would get together as a group, and they would study, do a Bible study. And had to wait in line to get their showers every night. And I'm sure the girls can tell you how wonderful that was. And, they were usually getting in bed kind of late. And, the next morning they were ready to get up again and do it all over again. And I got to be honest with you, there was very little, if any, drama. There was no complaining, just a willingness to do whatever it took. And I was amazed. I was just so proud of them. What was so amazing to me is that even after a full day of doing all that, they would come back, and this place where we were staying on the lower level of the Sunday school room, and maybe I'm sure Kevin's seen this, but they would sit there in the little lobby area, and they voluntarily would just get together, and they would start talking about what happened that day. And it's late at night, and they're tired, but they're just wanting to talk. They want to share about what had happened with their Bible buddy. They wanted to talk about the things that God was doing. They'd break out their instruments, and they were singing music. You would just be so amazed and so proud of how these kids just began to mature over the course of the week and all the things that they did. There's just so many stories to share. We could spend, the next 2 hours sharing all these stories. The Bible buddies that all these kids witnessed to over the course of the week. On Thursday, there was a 3-day thing, and on Thursday, that was the day they were going to share the gospel. It was pretty amazing to me that on that day, when the time came, as soon as they shared the gospel with these kids, and again, this is the first time a lot of these kids have ever done this. You've already heard here that that's not something they're used to doing. That got them out of their comfort zone. It's something different, and it's very challenging if you've never done that. And but they were willing to do that. And as soon as they began to share the gospel, and as soon as they were done, they would start walking out one by one. Mr. Teal, I led my Bible buddy to Christ. Mr. Teal, I led both of my Bible buddies to Christ. I had one guy say, all 4 of my Bible buddies came to know Christ. So, and there's one story I'd share with you on that day, on that Thursday. Danny and I were registering some of these kids because we had a lot of new people show up. And there was this one kid that really touched my heart. He was the little 7-year-old, and he came and, I registered him, put all this information down, and I was trying to sign him to a Bible buddy. I was like, okay, this guy over here, I need you to go with him. He looked around and he said, no, I think I want to stay with you. So I waited for a bit, and I kind of let him sit there with me, and then after a few minutes, I said, okay, wait a minute. This girl right here, I need you to go with her. She'll be your Bible buddy. No, I want to be with you. I couldn't get rid of this kid. I couldn't get rid of him. So he sat there, and he's looking at me, and I was like, okay, buddy, you're mine. So we walked around, we threw the football. He said, I've never thrown a football before. 7 years old. Threw a Frisbee. He'd never thrown a Frisbee before. I'm like, man, how can you do that? How can you be 7 years old and never done these things? Incidentally, his father, his mother, I never saw anybody show up. I never saw anybody there that was kind of watching over him. So this kid was walking around, and he just wanted to tell me everything. He just wanted to share everything with me. And time came, and I sat down with him, and I went through and talked to him and shared the gospel with him. He prayed to receive Christ. And, when time came to leave, I started to leave, and he didn't want to let me go. I mean, he hugged me, and I didn't think he's ever going to let me go. So this kid was just, he really touched my heart, though. Just to see the need, just the craving of affection that he had, just really, really touched me. And again, there's a lot of other stories. One other thing I'd like to share with you, though, was on the last night when they were doing their full program in the park, there in Forsyth Park. We were all gathered together, and they were doing their whole routine, the skits that you've seen. And the skit, kind of tells many of the stories about Jesus. And so somebody came and made me aware that there was this guy behind me that wanted to know about this. He wanted to understand. He wanted to talk about Jesus. And so I went over and started talking to this guy. And he said, what is all this? I see all this stuff, and you guys probably don't even know this, students. But this guy was like, I see all this, and what exactly does all this mean? And so we sat there, we began to talk, and this guy was shoving hot dogs in his mouth one after the other. He hadn't eaten in who knows how long. He was really hungry. But he was eating these hot dogs, but he was listening. I mean, he was intent. And then he was asking questions. And he wanted to know all about these skits and what that meant. And I began to tell him what these stories meant. And I began to share with him the plan of salvation. I began to tell him, how Jesus loved him. God wanted to save his life, save his soul. And so as we did that, I got to a point and I said, well, knowing this now, would you like to pray and receive Christ? And he said, I sure would. So we sat down and, before he even heard a word spoken, before Kevin was even able to give a message, just by what he saw these kids do, he prayed to receive Christ. Another life was changed. And if it was only that one guy, and it was certainly more, right? There was 130 other people. But if it was only that one guy, it was worth it. It was worth it. Students in the
A lot of stories we could tell, and we could go on and on and on. But again, Matt said, thank you, church. Thank you for helping. And I wanted to end by this. A lot of times we focus on the ones that prayed to receive Christ. I want to do something a little different. If you shared Jesus Christ with somebody this week in the gospel, I want you to stand up. Dr. Pennington showed up on Thursday afternoon with us for the first time on our mission trip, and we were so excited he was there. And I looked out over the park, and man, it was like, a lot of preachers say this, unleashing the hounds of heaven, mercy and grace. And one of the hounds is Dr. Pennington, and he beelined out there, and all these adults that were standing around watching their children as we were doing the Backyard Bible Club, he was just hitting boom, 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 walking out through there. And he was bringing them over one by one. It was like some of the students bringing them, this guy prayed to receive Christ, talk to him. He was off to the next one. This woman prayed to receive Christ, off to the next one. It was so funny for me. I was loving it. And it was awesome. And Dr. Pennington, we want to say thank you for supporting us. We appreciate that. Students, give him a hand. And anyway, I wanted to close by saying again, it's been an unbelievable experience for Danny and myself and all the adults in the room that were there. It's life-changing. And I want to say this, church, get ready. Because I always tell students, dream a dream so big that if it comes true, only God could do that. I had a dream a long time ago. Let's take Sold Out of the country. That's a big task. But due to some circumstances, God has stepped in. And next summer, June 3rd through the 11th, we will be going to Guatemala. The entire Sold Out congregation. So, Dr. Pennington's connection with the seminary down there, and we've gotten connected up with them. So you're going to be inundated with something called coffee. The students are going to start hitting you up. That's how we're doing this thing called Phoenix Coffee. You're going to be hearing a lot about coffee coming at you. So you coffee drinkers, get ready. They're going to assault all of you. Okay, thank you again. Dr. Pennington, we appreciate you.